I guess while we're waiting, I can tell you the story. The story of the manga. Okay. So, it's like, it starts out, you know, and they're like, it's like this guy, they're in college, right? And he's like, oh, I have a crush on my best friend. And it's like, oh, okay. Typical, right? And then he was like, yeah, I used to be really close, like, with his brother, but then his brother started being cold to me, so it's, like, really awkward. And then he runs into his brother at his house, and he, like, stops him from falling with, like, drinks. And he's like, okay, bye. And he's like, that's the first time we've interacted in, like, 3 years. Okay. So then, like...
Wait.
What?
So let's say guy number 1, like guy number 2, who's the best friend.
No.
Guy number 3.
No. So... we have the main character, and then we have the 2 brothers. That's more simple.
Okay.
So the best friend.
I was trying to find out if the main character was the brother.
No.
Of the third guy, or
no.
Okay, no. So it's from the other guy. Okay.
Yeah. So the main character, the younger brother, the older brother, and they have a sister that we don't really ever see.
Gotcha.
So then the main character gets like this ring on his face. You know, like the fated lovers type shit, like with the red string.
The red ring. Yeah.
But so it's a ring like around their finger. Only that person and their like fated person can see it. So he gets this ring, and you get like symptoms. You get like a fever, and then you can't sleep. You have to sleep next to this person, like, or like hold their hand or some shit like that, like to go to sleep. So he's like suffering from insomnia, and the older brother is suffering from insomnia, and the brother is like, I don't know who I came into contact with. So he's searching, and the other guy's like, I only came into contact with one other person. So he's like, no, this can't happen. I like this other guy. I like the younger brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the older brother finds out, and he's like, I'll pay you if you can just like hold my hand so I can go to sleep. Like, okay, cool, whatever. So then the older brother moves out the sister. He's like, oh, I heard, you know, I can move you closer to your job. I'll move you out, and then we'll move this other kid in. Shut the fuck up, Jory. Anyway, and then I'll move this other guy in. And he's like, the younger brother's like, that's a little suspicious, but okay. So they move him in, right? Typical, like, whatever stuff. Like, oh, when he's asleep, just come to my room and whatever. And this is where the whole, like, parallel thing I told you about earlier happens, where it's like we see the main character's perspective and then the other guy's perspective. So then we see the perspective of the older brother. He's like, yeah, I wonder when I started liking this kid. We're like, what the fuck? So he's like, was it back when I was tutoring them when they were in high school? And I'm like, oh God. Oh no, it's one-sided. Everything's one-sided. So he likes the younger brother, but the older brother likes him, but he doesn't like feel the same. It was like, so that it's like, what's going on? So it's just like the whole time is like the older brother like trying to warm up the main character to him, to like being open to him, like to change his mind about. He's like, oh, I can pretend to be the younger brother, because they don't want to tell the younger brother because he'll freak out because he's impulsive. So like they're like, he's like, I'll pretend to be him, you know, and you can just use me as his replacement for now. And he's like, I guess so, but I don't want to do that, it's wrong. He's like, no, it's fine.
Oh man.
Like, I'm like, this is so fucked up. So then I found out in the later chapters, like, so this girl showed up that they knew for a long time, and they had to like, and she was like hanging out like with the younger brother, and he's like, yeah, like, she's like kind of my ideal type, blah, blah, blah. They like to get him to say that in front of the best friend. He's like, oh, Sag. So then the older brother's like, oh, I'll come for you. Let's go somewhere. Let's go hang out. like, but it turns out he's the one that made her show up so that whole interaction could happen. So he could show him like, yeah, my brother's straight. He doesn't like you, like, type thing.
Oh, fuck.
I'm like, what? Everything was planned. It was so crazy. Oh my God. So then like, you know, he's like comforting him. He's like, yeah, it's okay, you know. I'll pretend to be him. You can use me. And why are you playing? Oh God, why does your Tarkaji look like that?
It's just basic.
Ugh.
Let's go.
Alright, but anyway, so then where am I in the book? Hold on. Oh, and like the brothers had like a conversation where the younger brother's like, why did you text her to keep me out? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I saw the text messages. he's like, stay away from him, you know, he's my best friend, he's special. And he's like, but you don't like men, so why does it matter? So it's like drama between the brothers too. I was like, oh shit. And then so the older brother's still like hanging out with the best friend when the younger brother's not around. Oh,
they're attacking me.
Oh, fuck you, bitch.
Perfect armor for a perfect me.
How dare they ruin my story?
Did you forget where you left off?
I'm thinking. I'm trying to remember.
It was something like the older brother told the younger brother, like, what do you care?
Oh yeah, he's like, why do you care? You know, and he's like, I know you try to date guys that look like him, but you can't have him. I'm like, and I was mad. I was like, how dare you trying to gatekeep him? You don't even like men. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? It made me so mad. It's like, bruh. So yeah, they keep hanging out, you know, because they have to sleep, so the only way they can sleep is by being in contact with each other.
Fortune favors
and he's
the great.
like slowly trying to get him to like only think of him, like so then he sets up like this one thing where the girl comes to the house to like hang out, like, congratulations on your new job.
Don't rush me.
Okay, oh yeah, so they have the girl come over, right? So like, oh, congratulations on your new job. And they're like, yeah. So they're talking, you know, her and the younger brother are like hanging out, and he's like, oh, we're gonna hang out in my room and talk, you know, because he's sad because he's watching his crush talk to a girl that he supposedly likes, question mark, I'm not really too sure. And then he's like, oh, just remember, I can be the younger brother. So and then he kisses him, and then he's like, no, we can't do this, they're right out there. And he's like, no, it's fine. So he's like, please lock the door. And he's like, no, it's fine. So then because the younger brother's suspicious, right? So the younger brother's like, oh, dinner's ready. He goes to open the door, and the girl like drops the bottle, like a bottle of wine. He's like, oh my god, how clumsy of you, let me help you, let me clean it up, you're a girl, whatever, right? So then she comes in the door and she sees them and she's like, you owe me one, like, type thing, like, how dare you. So she was in on it all along. We find out later that he got her a job somewhere, so she was helping him with this the whole time.
Oh my god. This guy's going way above.
I was like, this is kind of toxic, but I like this so far. It's really cool. So, are you fighting?
Fortune favors the great.
You're fighting, right? Yep, okay. Okay, so then some more stuff goes on, and he's like starting to think about the older brother more now. But he's also like, but no, I can't betray my feelings. I've like what's its face for a long time, blah blah blah. And the guy's like, I will replace his like, he doesn't say this to him, this is his like inner monologue. He's like, I will replace those thoughts of him so you can only think of me. And I was like, oh shit, how you gonna do that though? Like he's like your younger brother for like a long ass time, right? So then this is where like the big brain master plan thing happens. Oh.
Not yet. And you're dead.
Sounds to me like he's already doing it though.
He is. It's like a slow burn process. He's trying, you know.
Yeah.
Your death brings
Oh,
us
no.
one step closer to victory.
Here you go, friend.
Okay, so let me think of where I was with the whole thing. Well, anyway, some more stuff happens, and he's like getting into like slowly like becoming like in his brain, right?
Barrel.
God damn it! Every time I want to tell a story, someone starts shooting.
They're close.
So yeah, what do I remember from
The
that?
shadow thickens.
Oh, so then he like, the main character is trying to find a way to get the rings off. That's like the whole like beginning plot was like, how do I get the rings off? He finally finds a guy who can get the rings off. And he's like, yeah, I can tell you how to get the rings off. This is how I do it. But when I remove the rings, you lose your memories of the person and everything connected to them. So he's like, wait, I don't know if I want to do that. He's like, I don't think you should be. So where's Faith? I see Faith.
That wasn't even hard.
Oh, nice. We made it.
I'm calling for backup.
So, he has so he does all that. The guy kind of finds out. Oh my god, I skipped something important. So, the older brother was originally dating someone, and then when he found out he had a ring, he broke up with them. He's like, yeah, I was kind of using you. And he's like, no, you couldn't have been using me. He's like, you're just confused. And he's like, no, I'm not. so then this guy comes back and he's like, yeah, did you break up with me because you found your ring partner? And he's like, yeah, but I told you this wasn't gonna last long anyway. I break up with people all the time. So
Oh shit.
the guy's like, I'm gonna get rid of him. I know, like, he knew his name and everything. And he's like, so you've been stalking me? You know he lives here. If you do anything to him, you're gonna wish you never came here. And he's like, no, you're just delusional. I'll get rid of him. So then this guy like is stalking like the main character, and the main character's like, I feel like someone's watching me, and he's texting the older brother because he's like, I'm gonna make pasta tonight, blah blah, or whatever. So the guy shows up, and then he's like getting like weird vibes. He's like, you don't live here type thing. And then so he's like, he says something about the ring, and then he starts like beating the shit out of him, like kicking him, beating his ass, throwing him against the wall, all that shit. And he's like, oh, don't worry, if you just stand still, this won't hurt. And he's trying to cut off his finger, like, to sever the ring. But luckily, like, the older brother had installed like a location app on the phone of the other guy, so he could like know where he is. And then he shows up and he sees the guy getting ready to cut him, so he like kicks him. And he's like, what did I tell you? And he's like, I did this for us. We can be together if you're not linked together, right? And then he starts beating the shit out of the stalker. And the main character is like bruised, beaten. He's like passing out from his injuries. So then after this, the older brother went to get his phone and his umbrella or whatever, and he sees a message from the guy who's like, I can tell you about the rings. So he meets with that guy. He tells him the same thing. And he's like, you're not going to stop him, right? I'm like, no. He's like, no, I have a plan. So he knows that the main character went to go see the guy who can get rid of the rings. And he decides to confess to him. He's like, yeah, I've always liked you, blah, blah, blah. And then, so that confuses the main character. He's like, oh, he's just like me. He has a one-sided love too. And I'm like, well, that's what you got out of this? Oh, he's just like me for real. Like, no. Like, he's like, so he had to watch me have a crush on his younger brother, and he's had a crush on me the whole time. I feel bad for him. And then that's it. So then he's like, okay, now
latest?
that
That's like the latest?
No. I'm still explaining. Like the big brain plan. So this is all part of big brain plan. This is like where it started. Him confessing. With him knowing about the ring. Like that he'll lose his memories if he gets rid of the ring. because he's like, oh, I thought we should get rid of the rings because I don't want to burden you. Like, I don't want to keep you from like falling asleep, and you should be able to be who you want to be. And he's like, what are you talking about? So, then, he has like exams, college exams, and he's like thinking about the confession or whatever. And the younger brother like knows that he confessed, like the older brother confessed. We find this out later. So he's like, okay, I'll explain it from the main character's perspective and then from the older brother's perspective. So the younger brother's like, oh yeah, we finished exams, let's go out and drink, blah, blah, blah. So they go out and drink, and main character's like confused, so he's drinking a lot, and then he's getting ready to like throw up. He's like, okay, I'm gonna take him home. So then he walks out. The older brother calls him, and he's like, what do you want? We're leaving the bar. And he's like, oh, just checking in on you guys. And he's like, you know, we're not gonna come home tonight, like like screw you type thing. And the main character is like, why do you have my phone? Like, why are you talking to him? He's like, oh my god, he's holding him in his arms. And then he sees the older brother like in the distance. He's like, oh my god, he just saw us. So he's like really feeling down. So then they get home like outside the apartment complex, and then the younger brother's like, yeah, I like you too, man. Yeah. And then the main character's like, no, you're drunk, you're fucking with me, bro, stop. This is too much. Like, how could you say this to me? He's like, what do you mean? You're special. And he's like, no, you're just saying this just because I don't believe you. So, and then he kissed him. He's like, see, I like you. I just don't want my older brother to have you. And he's like, oh, so you just don't want your older brother to be with me. So that's what this is about? You're possessive. And he's like, no, man, no. So then the main character like goes upstairs and he like takes a shower, and the younger brother like falls asleep on the couch. So then the main character comes in, and the older brother's like pulls him into his room, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you're home. And he's like, I'm so sorry you had to see that or whatever, blah blah blah. What's his face confessed to me. And he's like, oh, I think we should get the rings removed. Yeah, I think that's the best thing for us to do. So you guys feel the same way about each other. It's okay. And he's like, I found this guy called the Connector. He knows how to remove the rings. I'm like, you asshole. Why would you? So, and he's like, no, do you know what will happen if we get the rings removed? We'll lose our memories. He's like, no, that's how it has to be. So you two can be happy together. Two people who are important in my life. I'm like, this is some top tier gaslighting. Like,
God damn.
It's like, I can't believe this. So, he's like, yeah, okay, it's okay, we'll get the rings removed. And he's like, no, I don't want to get the rings removed, not yet. And he's like, what do you mean? And then he doesn't like really explain himself. So then he's like, are you saying that you like me? And he's like, okay, well, if you like me, like don't turn away from this. And he like kisses him, and then like the door is cracked. So like the younger brother sees it, and but the older brother like looks at the door, and I'm like, oh wow, you're dirty for that, bro. Like, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. So then the next chapter, like we see what happened from the brother's perspective. So we see him like talking to the Connector, and then like talking out his like monologue about like why he's like why he plans on confessing. He's like, if I confess, he'll have no choice but to think about the confession all day, and then when he does and they go out drinking, that's all he'll think about while he's drinking. He's like, okay, I have to tell my brother that I confessed to him. Like, oh, where did you ping? Oh,
A pleasant
You
fluke.
forget again. What were we saying?
oh, I'm trying to figure out where the brother is in the plan. He told him, he like had him confess, told the brother that he confessed, and because he's like, you know, yeah, he's like, yeah, I confessed. He's like, I won't let you have him because he's my best friend. And he's like, again, he's like, you're only hurting him because you won't recuperate, like reciprocate, I don't know, like return his feelings type thing. And he's like, he's just special. I don't need to like. I'm like, no, and I'm like, this feels kind of gatekeepy. Like, I don't want my best friend being friends with, like, dating my brother because fuck you, like.
Right.
So he's like, okay, now that I've told him that I've confessed to him, he'll be really impulsive.
Take care.
So anyway, yeah, so during exams, the younger brother's thinking, he's like, okay, so he's thinking about me during exams. Gotcha. My younger brother is also thinking about the fact that I already confessed to him. So he's gonna try to keep us, like, separated.
You may have my power.
So, they go out drinking or whatever. And the older brother's like, good thing I installed or I know where he's drinking at because he wants to drink a lot. But good thing I also installed this app on their phone so I know where they're at too. So he's on the phone with the other girl that he had in his plans, and she's like, I can't believe you're doing this. And he's like, shut up, you're enjoying this, because she thinks it's funny. Like, the whole situation. I'm like, oh, she's like me reading this. So he's outside at the bar. They come out. Same as scene as earlier where he calls the brother, or calls the main character, and the brother answers. So then he's like watching and like he's having his monologue like, how dare you let him get this drunk? Like, but at least he's cute though. And then he's like on the phone. So then he's looking at the main character, and then the main character spots the older brother, and he's like, oh, I guess I better play this up. Let me look sad real quick. As he sees him and then walks away. He's like, okay, so they should be going home because my younger brother would do that because he's stupid. So he rushes home, turns on the living room light, just stands in the balcony, like waiting for them to get home. He sees the confession of the quote unquote confession of the younger brother. He's like, ah, yes, it's going exactly as I planned. He's so drunk and his confession's so sloppy that he doesn't believe him. So then he goes into his room, right? And then all the other stuff happens. And then, he pulls the main character in and he puts on the act of, oh, I'll get the rings removed. But as he's saying this, he's like, I'm sorry I have to do this to you, but I need to play up, like, the sadness, like, a lot. Like, you fucking asshole. So he's like, oh, this will really bring it home. I'm like, why would you do this? What's wrong with you? And then he's like, and he closed the door, but he didn't close the door all the way on purpose so he could look at his brother when he kissed the main character. I'm like, oh, you're dirty for that, bro. You're I was enjoying this. I was really into this, like. Oh my god, it was so funny. So right now where they are is like, the main character is kind of like, I'm not giving the younger brother an answer, but he doesn't want to give the older brother an answer because he's confused right now. He's confused as hell right now. But the older brother's still like, ah, yes, according to plan, it'll work eventually. I'm gonna be the one he chooses. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, it's kind of like possessive, but I'm like rooting for him at the same time. He deserves it.
He's going all out.
He's really going all out for this. I'm like, you know what?
No expense.
No, really. Anyone who puts this much effort into it, I think he deserves it. Like, we're not gonna talk about the methods he used to get there, but like he is gaslighting him so hard. It's like crazy. And I'm here for it. I love this toxicity. So that's where it is. It's like 40 chapters right now or something like that. Almost 50 chapters. I tried reading some of the like untranslated ones, but I don't think anything's really happening much. So there's that. I'd say this manga is wild, but that would be an understatement. I was not expecting it to go that hard. Like, when they start showing the brother's perspective, I was really like, oh, this is all planned. This feels like a soap opera written by someone with a lot of unresolved issues. I mean, that's what makes it that's what makes it good, right? Real life experiences. I'm rooting for the older brother. I've already picked my side. Because I think the first time when they showed the older brother's perspective is when we found out he liked the main character. So every time, like, he's like, oh yeah, just hold my hand so we can go to sleep. And he, like, quote unquote fell asleep first. And then it showed him, like, actually awake, just looking at the main character, like, like, sad. I'm like, oh no. It's gonna work out in the end. I believe it. Because, like, whenever he would talk to the younger brother about it, he's like, do you think that he likes you? And he's like, no, he's just my best friend. And you know I don't go that way. And I'm like, oh, okay. I see where this is going. Like, oh, I'm straight, but I'm haha, I'm gay for you, bro, haha. Like, no, you tried it. I think that's more toxic than what the older brother's doing, to be honest. Yep, so that's why I'm behind on all my anime today, because I was so busy reading that. I was so engrossed. Sounds like the author's cooking. Yeah, she's cooking something, bro. I love it when you get into those manga characters that are so crazy and toxic. You gotta set it as no, like I love that. I love crazy characters. This is my favorite. They're so hard to understand, but also really understandable at the same time. It's weird.